Okay, thank you very much. Dear conference attendees, ladies and gentlemen, today's anniversary conference on Dayton is one of the several over the past 4 weeks. We have seen many headlines, some focused on praise, some on concerns. Then there were surprises and perhaps shocks. For instance, at the Saturday event, the US ambassador in Sarajevo suggested that Dayton is a process that is evolving rather than a static international treaty. Some interpreted this as an effective end of Dayton and perhaps the beginning of a new phase, maybe European phase in terms of constitution setup. I was both happy and concerned about the remark. Happy because the call of a new phase is something that we in the European Parliament have been proposing for several years in resolutions, usually by huge more than 500 majority of MEPs. The underlying idea has been that a new European path is needed for a country, a path based on the European models for integrating national and regional specificities into a wider states. We also emphasized that the future Bosnia and Herzegovina should also align along the middle path between the two extremes, dictating the political life in the country for some time, that of separation on one side and centralization on the other. So we proposed federalization as a bridging solution. It is good that most speakers on today's panel are saying this as well. As I already mentioned, Europe has several states like Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, and several other states where national or linguistic communities have territorial, electoral, and budget autonomy. If this is a perspective of the US envoy that he had in mind, then I will stay happy and hopeful. However, interpretation of some statements went in other direction as well, in the direction to effectively say that we have reached the limits of Dayton and we need something new. Many have connected this something new to the proposals made recently by the SDA party chairman with SDA party with support for other Bosnian parties and later reaffirmed by the Wilson Center proposal. If this is the future, then I am concerned. In Dayton, we have a peace agreement that all 3 constituent communities accepted 25 years ago. It has held country together so far. At least the principles have. Not necessarily its implementation, including many backdoor arrangement changes. What is proposed by the SDA and the Wilson Center is a wholesale stepping back from these principles, including the principles of the 3 constituent communities. Perhaps the only principle that can potentially hold the country together as one. This interpretation of the ambassador's remarks reminds me of another such event back in 1992, 28 years ago. I was a university student back then. I imagine the US ambassador has been as well, although he looks a bit younger than me, or not far removed from a university degree. At that time, the peace plan for Bosnia and Herzegovina on the table was Kutiljero plan. All sides accepted it, including the Bosniak side. But Warren Zimmerman, the US ambassador to the former Yugoslavia at the time, advised the Bosniaks to withdraw for a higher objective. The higher objective at the time was called multi-ethnic ideal. It had the same intent at the SDA and Wilson Center today, formation of a civic state without national communities. We know what happened after that. Warren Zimmerman regretted the advice for the rest of his life. God bless his soul, he died in 2004. So, I offer this well-known momentum in policy history as an important lesson that we should keep in mind as we move away from Dayton. From this perspective, I have been encouraging a lessons learned exercise on Bosnia and Herzegovina issues in the European Parliament for some time. In December, we had the first such discussion in the Foreign Affairs Committee. We will have more next year. To aid this exercise, I have proposed 3 works. One of them is being circulated to conference participants today, especially for one of its essays. I believe that you have all the books in your hands that I reprinted on the occasion of 25th anniversary of Dayton Peace Agreement, made by a former Bosnian and Herzegovina ambassador that witnessed many of the historical events. That essay, written 15 to 20 years ago, argues that Bosnia and Herzegovina needs a civic solution to integrate the groups of others into the political structures. It concludes that Bosnia and Herzegovina can become a civic state via its 3 constituent communities. If we really want a viable civic state, we can also have it in that way, by respecting the most fundamental principle of Bosnia and Herzegovina, raison d'être. Indeed, in fact, in the second panel, Dr. O'Leary suggested the same thing as an ideal solution. 3 territorial units based on a civic rules, and we solved the issue. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to further discussion.